After my brother was born, my mom had a IUD implanted in her uterus. It was just a little plastic crab-looking thing, and it was supposed to keep her from having more children. And a year and 2 days later, I was born, and that thing was embedded in my face. And all the doctors said that I would be deformed physically and mentally, and I probably wouldn't live to be 12 years old. And I was born January 20th, 1973, and most people will remember January 22nd, 1973, Roe v. Wade was passed. So had that ruling been passed a couple months previous, I certainly would have been aborted. Growing up, my parents were awesome. They were amazing. They loved me very much, and they called me a pleasant surprise. They never really called me a mistake, but pretty much from the time I was old enough to understand, what was really going on, that's how I felt. I felt like I was a mistake. The way I exhibited outwardly that my feelings of being a mistake was to punish other people for how I felt about myself. And by the time I was 17, I was a very accomplished, very skilled fighter. My brother and I got into a fight with 6 Japanese exchange students. I spent 20 years and 5 months in prison for a 90-second street fight where there wasn't even a broken bone. So they put me in segregation in the hole, and the inmates called the hole there the dark side, because you never see anyone. There's 2 doors that separate you from human contact, and a slot will open, a tray will get pushed through, and that's it. That's all you get. And I was there for 4 months. They don't leave anything in there, not a pillow, not a mattress, anything, because you might be able to use that to hurt them. And so I was an unknown, so they put me in a cell, and there was not supposed to be anything in there. And I sitting on the metal bunk looking at the concrete walls, and I wasn't throwing a pity party. I didn't want to be there, to be sure, but I knew this is where they deposit mistakes. This is where I belong. And something caught the corner of my eye, and it was stuffed under the stainless steel toilet, and I got up and I picked it up, and it was a book, and didn't have a cover on it. It was beat up, it was torn up. It was a Set Free on the Inside Bible. And I started reading it out of sheer boredom. And in the 4 months I was there, I probably read it cover to cover 5 times. I know that when I left that cell, I was different, I was changed. And the light had found me on the dark side. One of my greatest friends who's still there even today, his name's Trevor. We used to bounce around theological ideas. We were always in our Bibles, and the general topic that we were struggling with was God's sovereignty in our lives. And I read Psalm 139, and the psalmist records there that I'm fearfully and wonderfully made, and that the Lord knit me together in my mother's womb, and that He mapped out and planned for me every single day of my life before there were any of them. And in an instant it dawned on me, I'm not a mistake. I'm intentional. What does the Bible mean to me? It's everything. It's all I got, and everything else will fail, but God's Word will last forever. And it has literally breathed life into me and tell me who I am and what my purpose is, and that I belong here.